Welcome to the Painting Lines Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things tennis. Join Erik and Aidan in their discussion for updates on news and pop culture, and from hot takes to betting, they've got you covered.
Ready? Play.
Welcome back to Painting Lines. Last week we discussed the 3 tournaments in Tokyo, Stockholm, and Antwerp, and this week we're excited to be welcoming onto the pod Quinn and Parth, 2 former college tennis players who played for Pomona-Pitzer in Southern California. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Just to kick things off, kind of want to give like a little bit of background about you guys and kind of your experience in tennis. So let's just start with you, Quinn. When you were playing junior tennis, like what was your experience as a junior? How young did you start playing? And like, what was it like training and traveling to tournaments?
Yeah, so I started at, I think, 8 years old, which I feel like is pretty standard. I feel like maybe even a little on the later side for most tennis players. And like one day my mom made me go to a tennis lesson and I was like, I hate this. I don't want to do it. And then I got there. I was like, wow, this is the most fun thing I've ever done. I'm going to come back every day.
Yeah.
And just got into it real quick. By the time I was 9, I was like trying to get into tournaments and travel. And I wasn't like particularly good, but I was really into it. And yeah, just started the tournament scene pretty quickly. I was like kind of traveling a little bit more for practice to like sort of play with other juniors and people at my level. And yeah, that whole process was just like a lot of time on the road. I remember that from the juniors. That was a big thing that changed in college. Like wake up, walk to the tennis courts in 10 minutes. In juniors, it was like 45 minutes to get to the court that I'm going to play at every day, sometimes longer. Like
yeah, just for a practice too.
And matches, yeah, were even further away.
Exactly. How about you, Parth? What was your experience like?
It was definitely similar to some of the things Quinn has mentioned. I started playing tennis at probably 7, and then my first tournament was when I was 8. No one in my family had like really played tennis or any sport that much, but tennis was always pretty like embedded into my family. So we were always fans of the game. And so my mom just had me try all the sports when I was a kid, and I was pretty terrible at all of them. Luckily, tennis was the one I was least terrible at, and also the one I had the most fun with. So that was going to be the one. So yeah, that just kind of sparked the passion in both me and also kind of my parents as well. They were excited to watch me play, and yeah, shout out to them. They painstakingly drove me to every practice and every match on the weekends. And even if the tournament on a Saturday morning at 8 a.m. is a 3-hour drive away for me to just lose in the first round, like they would do it, and we would do it all over again the next weekend. So definitely lots of time on the road, but I made a lot of good friends that way, Quinn included. We grew up playing matches against each other. So we have a good rivals to friends trope going now.
We actually, one of my first matches ever was against you.
Wow.
That's true. Quinn destroyed me. He kicked my butt.
How many times do you think you guys have played each other?
We played 4 times in juniors, and Quinn 3 of them. So it's not really a rivalry if one person wins every time. So
I might have won 3. I remember the loss very clearly.
I think one thing about junior tennis is that it being like an individual sport, it's very intense to have just like kids playing by themselves against other kids who are playing by themselves. So that tends to bring out some unsavory aspects of people's personalities, me included. Like I've been a brat on the court thousands of times, like many a tennis player. But I think luckily one thing that stood out when I played with Quinn is that I didn't want to like tear his head off. He was a good sport, so that was
nice. You call a line judge on me?
I did call a line judge. That, yeah, like I said, I was a brat. The first match we played, Quinn was just foot fault every serve, and I was like, I can't, I will not stand for this. I was down probably like 6-1, 5 love or something, and I was like, let me turn this match around. I'm gonna get in this guy's head. Call the line judge. Yeah, it turns out it was not the foot faulting that got him up a set in 4 breaks. So
yeah, the parent commitment for a tennis is so massive. I feel like that's a kind of a theme you see with anybody talking about junior tennis is like the parents have to be all in with it.
Yeah. And this is expensive too. It's like, I mean, there's a reason why, the vast majority of successful professional tennis players came from money. It's like really unfortunate reality, but like it requires a ton of time and money and like resources.
Yeah. I remember Quinn, you used to show up to my house and you'd have like a new pair of tennis shoes and we'd be like, new pair of tennis shoes? And you're like, yeah, I wear through them in like 3 months and they're just done.
Yeah, I mean, I wish it was 3 months. The shoes was probably the biggest cost in tennis for me. Like I was probably down to like 3 weeks a pair. And like
Jeez.
they usually had deals for, like a 6 month warranty, and some people found like little loopholes where you could just kind of run it forever. I never was able to figure that one out. But yeah, I mean like every 3 weeks, like $120 shoe is pretty rough.
Yeah. Yeah.
That 6 month durability guarantee was my first side hustle. Just take the shoe out into the backyard and shred it against the concrete. At five
Exactly.
months and 29 days. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a hole.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, oh, it's crazy how this always happens on the last day. So you're getting into high school and then you start looking at college. What was it like for both of you getting recruited to colleges? Do you have any kind of like interesting like recruitment stories?
I do actually have a unique recruitment story, and that is that I actually wasn't recruited. I showed up. I just showed up to practice when I first got to campus in college, and yeah, I introduced myself to the coach and some of the other guys on the team, and the coach just had me go out and hit balls. And I remember that I was so nervous when I got onto the court that I actually hit the ball, my first ground stroke, over the fence. It was like the most unbelievable, like surreal moment ever on the court for me. I was like, dude, this is like a Tuesday afternoon. Why am I
You're
so unable to do this thing that I've done a million times already?
just like, it's
Um,
over. It's over.
Yeah, they kicked him off
yeah, I was
after
like,
that
wow,
shot.
okay, thanks. Yeah, thanks for coming. Then I settled down a little bit, and I started to win some baseline games and stuff against some of the guys on the team, and so the coach started to kind of notice that, and I spent my first semester just kind of like proving myself uh, to the coach and to the team, and playing in all these like showcases that they would have on our campus before the season started. And there's like the fall ITA regional tournament that I played in as well. I pretty much played my way onto the team and just got in that way.
Very cool. Very cool.
Nice.
What about you, Quinn? What was your recruitment like?
Not like no too crazy of stories. I had a really bad shoulder injury in high school. Took a really long time to get that diagnosed, figured out. And then like I got surgery. I think it was the summer before my senior year or the end of my junior year. Most recruiting is sort of done. I mean, some of the really good players get recruited really early. I remember there being some rules around that, like you couldn't get recruited too early, but like the recruiting happens junior year into senior, like the beginning of senior year, obviously, because that's like when applications start at some point in senior year. So I kind of wasn't playing much tennis because of that. Like my junior year was pretty hampered by the injury, and then my senior year I had, I think, like fully 8 months off the court. So I didn't even apply to colleges that year. I really wanted to play in college, so I figured I'd give myself an extra year off before I started, and to all of the like training and getting myself, back a ranking and putting myself out there again. So yeah, I did that, took the year off. I applied the next year. Got like went through the recruiting process with several teams. I knew I wasn't going pro. I'm nowhere sort of near that level, and so I really wanted to just like use. I mean, I wanted to be playing tennis in college because I love it, and like I wanted to use it as a way to like go to a good school and get a good education. So I was like really looking at a lot of like D3 schools with like kind of smaller, more like teaching focus, and the Pomona-Pitzer was just felt like the one. It was such a good setup. I visited, I prospied with Parth actually. He
Mm.
showed me a good time, and there was like a showcase where they have like juniors come out and play against the team members, like, potential recruits come out, just like lots of people. And so that like always, those are the big pressure moments when you're doing recruiting. And I ended up being one of the guys in the lineup somehow. Never beat him again once I joined the team, but did that. And I think from there on, I think I kind of had my spot, and yeah, it worked out great.
That's great. Yeah, now you guys were on the team. What's that kind of like being on a college tennis team? Because I know it's got to be a little bit different than other college sports teams where there's different positions. There's 11 spots in the field versus in this, everybody's hypothetically playing the same position because you're all just playing tennis. So what is it like kind of trying to figure out where you are on sort of the team ladder? Like, what's that dynamic like?
Mayhem.
It really just depends on the coach has all the discretion for setting the lineup and deciding how to like judge players. So it's pretty coach dependent, and it kind of just matters how he's feeling about you and your game, and in comparison to the other people on the team, of course. And it's also a little bit about like matchups and stuff. Like sometimes the depending on what other team you're playing, the coach will like rearrange some of the folks on the team. So it is pretty chaotic.
It's definitely not a job that I envy, having to be the one in charge of setting the line. Because I mean, tennis players, you're out there for yourself. Like, I mean, not when you're on the team, like there is a sense of camaraderie, absolutely. But like tennis players, their whole lives, our whole lives, we were just out for ourselves doing this very individual sport. And so there's a lot of big egos, and everybody thinks that they're the best. So it's like really hard to have to be like, okay, you're not in the lineup, and like
Yeah.
here's why.
Did you guys have any like intra-team, like any like challenge matches or anything like that to help set the lineup and like where you were?
We did, but it's kind of tough. I mean, like tennis is really matchup based. Like everybody's, at a certain point, everybody's pretty close in level, and like you might just have a really good matchup against someone. But like I would say that we never really figured out the right process when we were there. And I'm not that like it was terrible, but like it was constantly changing. We had like challenge matches and whatnot, but then like things would still just rearrange, and it was different every year. That's kind of my take. I don't know if you think the same, Parth.
I mean, I think most of the players on the team were really advocating to have more challenge matches. We all pretty much preferred just playing practice sets against each other rather than doing kind of more like technical drills and stuff like that. But those, even within those challenge matches, there's so many variables. Like people are there primarily to do school. That's kind of, I mean, that's why I was there. Like I said, I wasn't even recruited. I decided I wanted to go to the school first. Education was always the first priority, and tennis came after that. So you could have a tough test you have to study for, or a long day in the classroom, or any number of factors that could contribute to you maybe not being all there for a practice match in Southern California heat later that day, which I guess is the case for any tennis team across the nation, whether you're Division One or Division Three. But there's no like perfect science, I think, is the moral of the story to like determining the lineup. I think it's very much a feel-based approach that most people take.
Yeah. One reason I brought this up is because I saw this article from 2019 about tennis betting fantasy. So it was essentially like, I think you would pick a team of players, and then each player at a certain value, and the person that got the most points from their hypothetical fantasy team won the bet. I don't know how it really worked, but the article said, I mentioned Quinn in my high risk, high reward value play, and the reward ended up being well worth the risk. My worry wasn't about Quinn's game, but whether or not he would be in the lineup. He played singles all 3 days and notched nice wins over GAC in the quarterfinals and WashU in the third place match, likely assuring him a lineup spot moving forward, even as PP returns to the sunny outdoor lifestyle of Southern California. So that kind of sounds like there must have been some level of like tension with the coach and like uncertainty there, kind of like what you were talking about, where like you're like, I feel like I should be playing and I'm getting results like this, but sometimes you don't find yourself in the lineup.
Yeah, I mean that definitely that was a struggle, and we had a great team that year, and like a lot of good players really vying for that spot. I was like sort of the sixth spot, so like the last spot in the like in the singles lineup pretty much exclusively. So it was like sort of a tough situation. I played really well that year. Like it was a good year for me, and I like did well in my like head-to-head matches during the season, and then like did well in my challenge matches. So like luckily got to have a spot for pretty much the whole season. But like I have a hard game to watch, and I think that it probably took some years off my coach's life. I'm I'm a grind. I was having consistent 4 hour matches, and I don't think he loved that.
Some might argue those are the most kind of fun matches to watch, but
I
maybe
was
not if
having
you're the
fun.
coach.
I was having fun.
Yeah.
But I don't think he was.
Yeah. Yeah. Moving on from sort of the lineup. Speaking on just as a team, I know that like tennis is a different sport than some other ones because there's a lot more of like side to side, fast burst kind of motion. A lot of people kind of compare it to basketball in terms of the athleticism. I was just wondering what kind of type of like workouts did you guys do as a team? Was it a lot of like sprints? Did you work on a lot of side to side movement? What type of stuff did you guys do?
We did a lot of sprints, a lot of like plyometric stuff, a lot of. Do you guys ever do the assault bikes for training? Terrible name for a piece of equipment, but like it felt like it was painful. They're like the like wind resistance, like they have the like fan in them, and they're like an elliptical and bike combination.
Yeah,
It is
you're
so
pushing at the
hard.
same time. Yeah.
We did those near the end. Our facilities got them near the end of my college time, and we would do for like two or three times a week. We'd do team workouts, and they got so competitive. There was usually like at least three people that would throw up from that. It was so
Oh,
intense, but it was really fun. Like a lot of stuff like that.
always good to get the competitive juices flowing in the workouts.
Yeah, it's the only way.
That's funny you mentioned throwing up because Aiden and I were talking about when we would push the prowlers in
Yeah.
football. And yeah, they would set up
Oh,
trash cans for people when they were done to just go and throw up. And people would be crowding around each trash can, like throwing up on
oh
top of
my
each
God.
other. It was
Oh,
disgusting.
that's
So bad.
terrible. Sports are crazy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't believe people do this.
I always felt it was tough because the prowler, they would put like three plates on it. And for someone that weighs 225, it's like, okay, this is a decent amount of weight. But then I'm pushing it and I weigh like 180. I'm like, this is just not fair.
That's tough. That is
I did an
tough.
assault bike the other day and I would do 10 seconds just full out and then 20 seconds rest. Do that probably like
Yeah,
10 times.
that's a good one.
And then after I would get up, I got so nauseous. I needed to sit down and just take 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah,
crazy. It's a crazy
the
workout.
20 on, 10 off, or 10 off, 20 on, those are the presets, and it's like a 4 minute workout and you're just dead after. It's
Hmm.
crazy.
Yeah.
But I love this question that Aiden brought up about working out because I've been trying to incorporate more of like tennis specific workouts into my regimen because obviously bench pressing, squatting helps in tennis, but big, heavy compound movements don't translate over to the tennis court. Like when I'm out there, before I would feel kind of slow, not light on my feet. And then I started doing more box jumps, more body weighted stuff, more a lot of the ladders too, which I thought were great. And it's obviously helping in the game. A lot of lat stuff like core. No, tennis workouts, they're definitely not the most fun or like
No, they're
aesthetically
pain.
pleasing, but they definitely help in the long run.
They're very humbling, like
Yeah.
doing the ladder workouts and like just trying to step over a hurdle that's at waist height and trying to like not move or like not turn your body while you're stepping over it to build the flexibility, things like that. It's a slow process to get good at those things and like kind of unglamorous in some ways. Like jumping rope helps a lot
Mhm.
to just kind of get light on your feet, like you're saying. So
Anything that can get you that explosive first move, or like just like quick feet. I feel like that's
Mhm.
it.
100%.
Who needs arms?
Yeah, no
Exactly.
curls, huh?
No curls.
no
Oh,
chance.
Nadal's arms are cannons.
Yeah. I don't know how that happened.
He's just a specimen. It's just
Yeah,
how
he
he was
could
born.
uh-huh. He can wear the cutoffs. I don't know about Zverev though. Zverev wearing the
Yeah.
tank top on the court.
Yeah.
You're like, what are you showing off, dude?
I think the tennis like player archetype is now like lanky and skinny,
Mhm.
tall, and just flexible. Rafa seems to be an exception to the rule.
Alcaraz too.
Yeah, Alcaraz is pretty built.
There's the exceptions, yeah, but 100% like you like a Sinner or a Zverev type of guy where
Yeah,
it's long and
even
lean.
even Djokovic is pretty skinny. I feel like he's gotten skinnier over the course of his career, if anything.
He
He,
lost
he
muscle back when he was like that was one of the things that he did to get better. It's crazy.
yeah.
Can't even imagine trying to lose muscle.
Yeah.
He's like, I need to be
For me, you
weaker.
can't. Yeah, you can't lose what you don't have if you're me. So I do not subscribe to that philosophy.
Yeah.
This is kind of an interesting question, but were you guys able to kind of express your own style out on the court, or did you guys have strict rules with what you're going to wear to practice, what you're going to wear to matches, and everyone on the team had to follow those rules? Or could you kind of stretch them a bit?
Matches were strict. We had like a uniform and we like had a few different uniforms and like whoever the captain was would just coordinate, be like, this is what we're all wearing today.
Mhm.
And someone would always screw it up or forget or hadn't washed their clothes or something and we'd figure it out. But like, yeah, it was pretty strict during matches. There was no rules in practice.
But was it just a basic like t-shirt kind of and then shorts, or did you guys have any nice polos or I don't know, different variations of tennis clothes?
Yeah, we had a few at the beginning of the season. We would get probably 3 or 4 match shirts, and then maybe 1 or 2 practice shirts. And each year it varied. There were just your average, regular kind of Nike dry fit
Mhm.
fits, and that would include collared and uncollared shirts. And we would just try to create some sort of combination each day. Our colors are blue, orange, and white. So
Mm.
The Mets.
yeah, basically we are basically the Mets. Um,
Yeah, it was pretty much the same.
some days we would rock the all blue top and bottom, the blueberry fit. Some days we'll go all white. Some days we'll mix and match. So it was up to the captain.
I could never convince the team to get orange shorts. I think it would have been so cool if we were just like traffic cones one
Yeah,
day.
all orange. Like
Orange
color
fit.
Everyone
rush.
would do it.
Dude, you
Yeah,
might blind the opponent.
Exactly.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's a distraction technique.
Yeah, we would have been breaking ground.
Exactly. But yeah, so overall, like, do you guys have any best kind of matches or memories from your tennis career from juniors, high school, college that like you'd want to share that like you think was just a great tennis experience?
I can start with one for between us. I think one match between me and Parth was really electric and memorable. I think I want you're gonna have to correct me on all this part because Parth's memory is much better than mine. But I'm pretty sure I won the first set 6-0 and then I lost 0-6, 10-0 in the third set tiebreak or like 10-1 was it?
Yeah, I think it was 10-1.
I came out firing and then Parth, the second set, just decided that every shot he'd hit was a winner, and he did until the end of the match, and I just sat incredulously by as he worked me.
What can you do? What can you do in that situation? Not much.
It's surreal when you have like matches like that. It's so frustrating, but at a certain point, you just kind of are like, "Oh, I'm gonna just keep making the ball and like hope they come back to earth." And sometimes they just don't.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like, at least in my experience, like that can be a little bit freeing for me when I'm like, this person isn't missing. I'm just gonna swing like all out. Like, because if I miss, it doesn't matter because if I make it in, they're gonna hit a winner anyway.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah. I have a match since that was Quinn's match. I have a memorable match of my own. I did not participate in the match by playing, but I was on the court for it. In college tennis, you can have your coach, the assistant coach, and then you can have one other person just kind of roam around the courts and like provide feedback for players during your teammates during changeovers. So oftentimes our third guy would be just like someone on the team.
Yeah.
And so I was on Quinn's court for this match. I believe it was against the University of Chicago, and it was a pretty big match. They were number one in the country at the time, and we were, I don't know, probably like 7 or 8, which is kind of where we would hover. So it was a big match, and we were playing them really tough. I think we might have even gone up 2-1 after doubles, and we just kind of had to maintain the level in singles matches to make the upset. And Quinn was playing six, and this dude that Quinn was playing was on fire. He hit the ball so flat and so accurately off of both sides and was just flying around the court. So I think he won the first set. And Quinn and I were talking on the changeovers, and we were like, yeah, this guy is feeling it right now. You just kind of gotta hunker down and weather the storm. And Quinn, he mentioned that he's kind of a grind. I have never seen somebody just slowly break somebody's spirit just by getting every single ball back. If it's the last thing he did, Quinn was gonna do it.
That
And so
was a crazy match.
it was crazy. And he eventually chipped away. He snuck out the second set and then pulled it out in 3. And it was one of the most exciting times I've had on a tennis court, and I wasn't even playing. It was so cool. Unfortunately, we ended up losing the match overall 5-4, but
It was so close.
it was so close.
We were up 5-4 in the third set. Yeah, we had a match point to win it, and the last match on, like our teammate, he like called the ball out, and then the ref like overruled him. It was a really close call. Who knows? Whatever. It was tight, but it's like, you know, a matter of inches. That was probably the most exciting day of our college tennis or my college tennis career. That was definitely the best win of my life. I mean that guy was way better than me, but like they'd been in Chicago playing indoors in the winter, and they, welcome to LA. It was 95 degrees, and slower courts outdoors. I was just gonna make the guy play for 4 hours, and luckily he cramped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I was having the best match of my life also. But yeah, that was awesome. I loved
That's
that
great.
match.
Yeah, that's a cool story. All right, how about other than matches? How about specific shots that you could just replay over and over in your mind? Like any tweeners, any nice shots that stick out for you?
That's a great question. My number one experience in USTA junior tennis matches was always losing the match, and then my opponent's mom coming up to me after and being like, "Great match, tough loss, but your game is beautiful. Your backhand is gorgeous." I'm like, "Thanks, person. Your
Yeah.
son just destroyed me." But I have a one-handed backhand, so I think most of my memorable shots are all kind of like up the line backhand passing shots or things of that nature. I don't think I've ever successfully hit a tweener in like a sanctioned tennis match. I need to join a USTA league or play some men's opens or something so I can knock that off the bucket list, but I should. I mean, I try to come to net as much as possible, and I'm not that tall, so the makings of hitting a tweener are there. Like, I should be able to make this one happen.
That's a funny one because I used to always come to the net when I was playing, and sometimes someone would feed me like what could be an overhead, and I would just see it and I'd be like, gotta go for the tweener. Just because I'm like, you don't always get the opportunity.
I think honestly, embarrassingly, in matches, like I still did that. I was like, I'd rather hit a tweener than an overhead sometimes.
Yeah.
Like in real ass college matches, like I don't know. But
Yeah.
okay, I have a vague memory of like an actual Parth like shot moment, and I'm gonna butcher this. So Parth, you're gonna have to correct me. That we played the like doubles classic in San Diego, and you were playing were you playing like UCLA team? Like,
We played USC's two doubles team. Yeah. Jake Devine and Logan Smith, I think.
oh yeah,
They're
and
pretty good. They both
I
had ATP rankings. So,
yeah.
what am
So
I doing on this court right now?
Parth was playing that, and I think you like won your first service game, or at least you were like winning the first few points on your service game. And like one of my teammates, I think I was on a different court playing, and one of our teammates came over to me and was like, I think these guys have never seen this slow of serves before, and they just didn't know what to do. Like, damn, he's throwing shade at Parth, but that's pretty hilarious.
I mean,
Classic
I'm in the
changeup.
same boat.
Hitting him with the
it
changeup.
was true. It was true. I got him with the off speed. Works every time.
Exactly.
That was sort of tongue in cheek. Parth had the most beautiful game. I'm not supposed to say this in front of Parth because he's a Nadal fan, but his game looks like Fed's. It's just so smooth, and he is a very, very good shot maker.
That one-handed backhand, I those times when you're trying it out in practice and you get a nice one, I can only imagine like just how nice it must feel when it's practiced and you just catch it correctly and you just pass the guy and you're like, yeah, I'm the best in the world.
Dude, it's probably like a drug. It's just addicting, man. Once you hit it once, you can't get enough.
Yeah, I would not recommend, if there are any kids out there listening to this, stick to two hands. It's not worth it. It feels great, looks great. It doesn't function great. And it could also be a product of just like me as a player, but I think on things like serve returns and if you're on defense on a deep in the ad side, like you generally want that second hand to help you get the ball back over.
I'm super surprised by like how enduring one-handers have been in the pro game. Like I know that like it's a lot less than, way back in the day, but like there's still so many great players with one-handers.
Yeah. Federer probably helped that because people were like,
Yeah.
this guy looks sick. I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
All right, I got a fun question for you though. Out of, let's say, Stefanos Tsitsipas, Stan Wawrinka, and Dominic Thiem, who do you think has the best one-handed backhand?
I think it's got to be Stan. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
his backhand was, I think, better than his forehand for a while, right?
Yeah.
It was a tried and true weapon. I feel like his backhand was one of the best backhands on tour, including the two-handed backhand players. It was a tried and true weapon, and obviously it worked out for him.
I think he was one of the best shots on tour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Thiem is an honorable mention for sure. I think
Mhm.
his backhand is just electric. Tsitsipas, I would say, is maybe not quite on that level. I think it's a uh, pretty glaring weakness in his game. I think people are starting to pick on it more and more, which that may help him in the long run. I remember Federer when he was coming up on tour would say that he credits people picking on his backhand as the reason why it got to the level that it did eventually. So maybe that's in his future, but I think as of now, Stan and Thiem have got him beat.
Mm.
Did you guys have a player that you looked up to as a child that you tried to model your game after?
Yeah. I was a Djokovic guy growing up. I was a huge fan, thought he was amazing. And like I still think I mean, obviously he's the best player of all time, like on the men's side at least. And I really looked up to the way he played tennis and his game. I don't understand to this day how he loses points. Like I'm always like whenever he loses points, he's the only player I've ever seen where I'm like surprised. I'm like, how did that happen? Did he just like take a nap? Like the Gojo match in the was it Gojo in the US Open where he just like took a nap for the first two sets?
No, that was
No,
Laszlo.
Jerry, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
That's funny. I should have known when you were alluding to it earlier, where you said you're a grinder, you put on 4-hour matches, you get everything back.
Yeah, I mean I don't think I definitely couldn't compare my game to Djokovic. We're not playing the same sport, but I certainly looked up to him growing up, at least as a player.
What about you, Parth?
My tennis fandom, a lot of it in the beginning was pretty derived from my parents. I mean, my parents are immigrants, so they came here and they're like, American sports are awesome. So we like American tennis players. So we were big Sampras Agassi people when I was a small kid, and then Roddick came up, and we were big fans of his. Um, and towards the end of Agassi's career, he just kept getting beat by Fed, and so we were sort of planted the seed of not being a Federer fan in the beginning, and then this guy from Spain showed up and really took it to him, and he was exciting and wore capri pants and had long hair and big old muscles. So he was an exciting guy to watch. And so from then on, I became the world's biggest Rafa Nadal fan. And so that carries on to this day. I'm sad to hear that it's coming to an end in a year or so, but it's been quite a journey watching him play and being his fan. So
Yeah.
I think we've all been pretty lucky to have all three of them, plus some extracurriculars like Murray and Delpo and Wawrinka. So it was a pretty cool time to grow up and watch tennis, no doubt about it.
100%.
For sure. So this question kind of it popped in my head when you were talking about Nadal, and I was just thinking clay, different surfaces. When you guys would play other schools or have other tournaments, were they only on hard court, or would you guys play on other surfaces?
I can't remember ever playing on another surface in an official match, right, Parth? Like it was all hardcore, right?
Yeah, I think it's all hard courts. It's honestly, it's a really good question because I wonder in other divisions like in D2 or D1 if there's matches on clay at all. Having matches on clay for in D1 would probably maybe even benefit some of the like mid-tier teams because I feel like a lot of them have players come from other countries where clay courts might be more frequently found. So maybe that could even the playing field. I think there should be play in American college tennis. I think that would probably set players up for success on the pro tour if they want to go that route after. I mean, we saw this year Ben Shelton played his first tennis match on clay. That's
Yeah.
and he had been on tour for like a year and he had played tennis obviously his whole life. Played his first tennis match on clay. That's I guess he was 19 or 20 or whatever, so it's not that late in his life, but like for a pro tennis player to play your first clay match that late to your career is kind of it raises an eyebrow.
Clay is like a skill too. It's like it's different and it's really hard. There's a reason why Americans suck on clay, at least usually for the first half of their career and usually for a lot of it. It's like it's a hard skill to pick up. I mean, I don't have it, but like when Parth and I played on clay the other day, it's like it's difficult. It's
Yeah.
like it requires a lot of I don't know, extra moving parts.
Different type of balance.
Where was it? Was it in New York?
Yeah, in Central Park.
Yeah, Central Park.
Just do it.
Oh,
It's
nice,
really
nice.
cool.
Because they have red clay courts on 96th on the west side.
Damn.
Well,
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll be there.
Yeah. Just
noted.
Yeah.
get there early.
We
6 a.m.
we've been kind of we've been doing a tennis tour of New York. We played at the USTA National Tennis Center, like where they have the US Open. We just went online and booked a court. So that was a pretty cool experience. Played at Central Park. Good tennis bucket list items. We played in Cancun at the Rafa Nadal Academy this summer. So we've been making the rounds.
That's awesome.
Even in Mallorca, I've seen so many pictures on
Yeah.
Instagram of just these amazing tennis courts overlooking a fantastic view of the ocean or in the middle of a jungle. I'm like, dude, why can't I just travel the world playing tennis?
The dream job for me has got to be a computer science teacher at the Rafa Nadal Tennis Academy, and then I can just hit balls after class every day. That'd be
Yeah, Rafa, if you're
be
listening,
awesome.
hire us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send you my resume.
Yeah.
Alrighty, Erik, you want to hop into this last question before we get into kind of perspective stuff?
Definitely. So, do you guys have any advice for younger players who are looking to get recruited and are maybe a little lost or looking for something that they could do? If you guys have any, piece of advice for them.
I think it really I don't have too much perspective on the like truly elite junior level, but I think for me, just when I was playing junior tennis every weekend and practice after school every day and things like that, a lot of it felt very high stakes and like there was just like so much riding on it. Like when I was a junior, I of course wanted to play in college and like wanted to win enough matches and get the ranking high enough and get my name out there. But it wasn't always possible. Like not my results weren't always good enough for that. But that added to the pressure while I was playing these matches. I was like, it's like I'm on the cusp of being able to play in college. I hope I can do it. And so it felt like there was a lot of pressure. And I think I wish that I had a little bit more balance in terms of just like perspective on how to go about it in kind of a more thoughtful way. And playing tennis, because making sure that I was playing tennis because it was like fun and good for me, and not kind of being more of like a mental burden of sorts. And so I think my main advice is just other than like obviously like train and make sure you're playing good tennis and winning matches, of course. Have some balance. Find maybe even play another sport for fun. Yeah, just kind of have that balance in life to not get burnt out.
That's always so tough in tennis. I feel like it's like, I mean, just we talk about it so much. It's like the one-on-one nature. You're the only one out there, and as a kid, that's just so overwhelming. So I feel like having other outlets and understanding that there's more to life, and these moments that suck and are really hard are just going to pass is like probably really important for the mental health and the tennis game. Like I think when you can take a little of the pressure off, like you're going to have way better results. My thoughts are, don't be afraid to lose getting better. It's really easy to go out there and like play in a way that you haven't been training, like to fall back into old patterns because they work. But like that's not the way to get better. I think some people that are really good weren't afraid growing up to like lose, going for their shots, or like trying new patterns, because if you lose a random boys 16s or girls 16s tournament, like that's not going to matter when you're 18. Like, but like putting in that time to like develop your game matters more, and it's really hard to remember that in the moment because all you want to do is win. Or at least for me, that was the case for me. And then also like getting out there when you're in high school and like meeting other players that are like going off to college, meeting like finding ways to like do showcases and meet college coaches, and like just putting your name out there is huge. It makes a big difference. Unfortunately, like if they know your name and they know about you, it matters to some degree as well as your skill level. And that was never something that I was good at either. Like if you know the college coaches and they know you, that's huge.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Both great thoughts. But yeah, so now obviously we know who you guys are, and our audience does too. So I wanted to hear some of your guys' perspectives on just like the current situation in tennis. I know you guys both tennis fans still, so just wanted to bring up some ideas. There are some popular topics that are going on right now and some of our favorites to talk about. So I just wanted to bring those up, and just want to kick it off with Ben Shelton.
Ooh.
This guy's like almost seen as right now as like the savior of American tennis. He's the next guy. He started off the year so hot at the Australian Open, shot up so far, had that long kind of cold streak that got kicked off by going on and playing on clay, which he'd never really played on before. But then obviously comes back, US Open, massive run, wins in Tokyo last week, and now he's in like the top 15 in the world. What are your guys' thoughts on him? What do you think about him right now? What's going on, and what's he's going to be seeing in the future?
Parth, lead us off. You got lots of good stuff, I'm sure.
Clearly a pretty meteoric rise for him. I remember last year at around this time, I saw him. Quinn and I went to the finals of my hometown challenger, the Tiburon Challenger, and we saw him lose in that match. And it was very clear that he was just like oozing talent, and as soon as it all kind of clicked, he was going to pop off after that. And that's essentially what happened. He had already kind of made some noise prior to that match. I think he beat Rude last year in Cincinnati. That was kind of his burst onto the scene moment. And then he like lost in the first round of the US Open, but it was in 5 sets. So he was like making some noise, still playing challengers, lost that final. It was clear that the trajectory was going upwards. And I was pretty surprised by the run in Australia. I I was mostly surprised by his fitness level because he played a bunch of like long 5 setters in that tournament, and it was obviously in Australia where it's super hot, and he was super resilient and just hanging in there and made it to the quarters. So that was a great run, and then he kind of fell back down to earth a little bit, obviously, like you were saying, but. I think what his game tells me is that getting free points on serve is a way to just get into the top 20 of the men's game. Like he saves himself so much trouble and he gets out of trouble so often with just gigantic serves. Obviously, he's also 20 years old and the tennis ball probably looks like a watermelon to him. So it's very tempting for him to hit every single ball as hard as he possibly can. So that leads to some ill-advised decisions on court. But I mean, he's Showtime. I like that he like kind of plays tennis like it's a performance. He like caters to the crowd. It's similar to how Tiafoe plays as well. Like he'll like really engage the crowd with not only just like in between points with the reactions, but like the game, the play style that he has. Like you can see sometimes he'll go for the Showtime shot, and I think everyone in the building, including him, knows that it's ill advised, but he'll just do it, and
Yeah.
you love to see it. And so far, it's served him well. Like I think that's probably maybe the balance that he has needed to like not get burnt out and like figure out how to be a pro properly when it's like really hard on tour and things like that. Maybe it's his release to just like hit a ridiculous forehand up the line at 105 miles when he had the whole open court to hit into and he didn't have to play with such low margin. So I'm a fan. I think also the put the phone down celebration. I think that's good for tennis. Like he's a kind of a polarizing guy because of the personality, but like it doesn't seem to me that it's in a toxic way. I think sometimes someone like Kyrgios can seep into that toxic area of being a bombastic personality on tour,
Yeah.
smashing rackets and throwing chairs and cussing people out. Ben Shelton doesn't do any of that stuff. Like he's only positive on court. I haven't seen him throw a racket. I barely even see him show any negative emotion. Really, he's just screaming yeah after every point, which I'm sure if I was playing him, I would be so annoyed by that. But as a spectator, and I'm a fan of American tennis, of course, so I like it. I like it.
Yeah,
I'm a fan.
he lets out the emotion without like becoming the villain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got positive energy and he's so electric. He reminds me of Kyrgios in that he's just like entertainment, like so much entertainment value, so much talent, like burst onto the scene. Like people didn't really have an answer at the beginning. I feel like a lot of times players break onto the scene and do really well. And then like if they don't continue to improve, people figure out their games and like they can drop off a little. It seems like Ben is really like dedicated to building himself as a player and like being a professional. I think he has so much talent. If he can like continue trying to improve like point construction, I think he could be one of the best players. I mean, I guess he already is, but like he could like enduringly be a really, really good tennis player. My one thing that I'm worried about is he just comes out there. It looks like there's just no game plan. Like when I was watching at the US Open, like what Parth was saying, some of the shot selection is just like, wow, that was never gonna work. Um, even after the US Open, he's sort of like started constructing points a little bit better and started being a little craftier with his serve, taking some off sometimes, and like, yeah, I think he's got a great career ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, very well said, guys. I agree with a lot of it. I have a pretty funny story, Parth, about how you mentioned his 2022 US Open run where he just lost in the first round, but it was a five setter. So I was on the grounds. It was the first Monday, and one of my buddies is texting me like, "Yo, you got to see this Blake Shelton guy on court like 17." I'm like, Blake Shelton, isn't that a country singer? He's like, oh wait, I mean Ben Shelton. He had no idea. He goes, University of Florida sophomore, serves bombs. Like you got to see it. I'm like, all right. So I go, and it was the most electric match of the whole US Open because it was on one of the smaller side courts, and he was the American. I think he was playing a Spaniard. So obviously American crowd was just so into it, back and forth, five sets. That was awesome. So once I got that first like taste of Ben Shelton, I I loved it. I agree with what you said. I think he's great for American tennis. I think he's great for the sport in general. And I'm so excited to see what his future has in store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Also, like college tennis, shout out. I mean, that's pretty cool. I know he didn't do all 4 years or anything like that, but he won a national championship with Florida, and that goes to show that college tennis is viable on the pro tour. There are a few. I think Cam Norrie as well. There's
Mhm.
Mackie McDonald.
Maggie, Marcos, Giron.
Yeah, lots of
yeah,
UCLA guys.
Yeah, UCLA is like
I'll see.
crazy.
Yeah, that team Cressy, they haven't figured out.
Dennis Novikov didn't really ever end up panning out, but he was good in college.
Yeah, it is possible. And yeah, Ben Shelton's dad was the coach of that team too, so
Yeah,
that probably helped. And his dad was a professional tennis player as well, so
yeah,
I
yeah,
think the stars really are aligning for him because I mean I wouldn't know obviously, but I imagine that one of the harder aspects of being a professional tennis player is like learning how to be a professional and treat it like your full-time job, especially when you're starting your full-time job at 18 years old after spending a year at University of Florida, which is that's it's a college. So it's
yeah.
a very different lifestyle, I imagine, than
No
being a
Pomona
professional
Pitzer.
tennis player. Yeah,
Probably pretty
it's
Same
different.
not quite. I mean,
same colors though.
same colors. I don't know if Florida is as big of a party school as Pomona-Pitzer, but we'll um so I think he's in good shape.
Didn't you have a fun fact? I feel like you told me a fun fact about him and his dad, like some stat or something.
Yeah, I think they're the first father-son duo to both win an ATP event.
I might have seen a
Um
post about that. Yeah,
Whoa,
yeah,
which is
that's
pretty
pretty
cool.
cool.
So I mean,
yeah,
having someone like that in your corner probably helps so much. I think that's why also Alcaraz has his support system has allowed him to kind of handle these really big, intense moments that are pressure packed and life changing because he's got Ferrero who did all the same stuff.
yeah.
So I think having someone like that helps a lot.
At a super young age too.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, moving on from Shelton, going on to a couple other young guys, Holger Rune and Felix Auger-Aliassime. My big thought coming into this pod was, will they recover? But I mean, this week's tournament's kind of hopefully a signal that they're on the upward trend because Rune makes the semifinal and FAA makes it all the way through and wins the tournament somehow after having not a great year, defends his title in the Swiss indoors. A crazy run, in my opinion. I definitely did not see it coming. What are your guys' thoughts on whether or not these guys are on that recovery and will continue to uh, kind of build back into 2024?
I think they're both on the recovery. My sort of hot take is that like I don't think FAA is I don't think he's destined to be in the top 10 ever. Again, he was for a little bit, right?
Yeah, he was number
Mhm.
six. Yeah,
Yeah.
He's number 6, right? So I don't think he's headed back in that direction, but I do think he's gonna have I mean a better year next year than this year because this year was
yeah.
pretty rough.
But you think he's gonna where do you think he'll end up falling? Kind of like in the teens or in the 20s or
I think late teens, early 20s is where he's gonna sit. I
mm,
feel like that's my opinion. I think he's definitely a very solid player. I think he was dealing with injuries and stuff this year, and just a rough year. But like, I think that that's sort of where he's gonna fall. Um,
sort of where like Dimitrov is right now?
yeah. Although Dimitrov, I'm really bullish on Dimitrov right now. He's playing really well.
Yeah, he has been playing very well recently. What about you, Parth?
Uh,
What do you think?
It's kind of a bummer for me because I really like Felix's game. I think he has the tools. I think his ground strokes, I'm not sure if they're really able to withstand high pressure packed moments. I think he's a little bit prone to spraying balls and hitting some air and hitting errors in on really big points and stuff. And I think that has kind of been one of his pitfalls so far in his career. But yeah, the fall off this year for him, I can't say I was expecting it. It happened what it felt like it happened pretty suddenly. I thought he was gonna do all right after he won Basel last year. I thought, I mean, and he had a good year in the slams last year as well. He took Rafa to 5 in the French, and he beat Zverev in Wimbledon, I think, and so he was, the trajectory was looking good. Um, and then I guess it seems like he's been hurt for a lot of this year. I know he mentioned after the French Open first round loss that he actually just had diarrhea, and so he just was not ready to like play a tennis match.
Yeah.
And I guess it's just been a litany of injuries since that point. And it could be attributed to kind of what Quinn was saying as well of people figure out people's games. These guys might just know how to break down his game and exploit his weaknesses, and maybe the same with Rune. I know Rune's also been hurt, and he's got some stuff going on off the court. It seems like he's got a coaching carousel. I know he's got Boris Becker in right now, but I think he has an interesting relationship with his parents and stuff. So it'll be interesting. I think luckily they're both super young, and I'm sure they'll be fine. I can see them both being top 10 players, but I think the top 10 is also going to be kind of a revolving door as well, because we were so spoiled with the consistency of these guys in the top 10 over the last 15, 20 years. I think it's just going to be the Wild West for a little while, and Rune and Felix are no exceptions. There'll be some mainstays like the Medvedevs and the Alcarazes, of course, and Djokovic is a cyborg. He's going to play forever. But after that, it's really just anyone. I mean, Taylor Fritz was 5 in the world last year, and it just look at, it's very hit or miss with these guys lately. Looks like Sinner is on the come up, so we'll see.
Yeah. I think that's definitely true. I think not even just with the big three, but also you had guys like Songa, guys like Ferrer, guys like Burdich, who were all kind of just mainstays, just sitting in the top 10, kind of just holding those top 8 spots. And maybe a guy would sneak into like the 9 or 10 spot, but like you had guys that were just holding those top spots for a long time. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how that revolving door kind of goes. But what were your thoughts on those tournaments overall? Because obviously, kind of recently, we've seen a lot more upsets where a guy that wasn't a top seed makes it through, makes a deeper run, and then all of a sudden we get these tournaments. And I think in both quarterfinals, it was like maybe one seed had lost out of the top 8.
I watched the final today. That was exciting. Or sorry, the final of, I guess you watched both, but the final of Vienna I thought was awesome. They had that one 20-minute game. That was crazy, and I think that just kind of destroyed Medvedev. It seems like, I mean, serving a game for 20 minutes. I just don't know how you come back from that deep. Like, I mean, it was an over 3 hour match, I think, or roughly 3 hour match. So like you're, 2.5 hours ish into the match, into like along the end of the long season. Everybody's like, I feel like every year at the end of the season, it's kind of a shit show. Everybody's struggling after just a crazy long season. So I just like, I imagine he's exhausted, has to serve 20 minutes, and then I guess that was the end of it. Although he did break back right after. That was pretty crazy. But that was a really good match. Sinner looks great.
Yeah,
100%.
that was a great match. That it was pretty funny because the announcer actually compared it to a war of attrition. Like these two are just battling each other. The points were so long and drawn out. Like you said, the games were extremely long. It was a battle. I felt bad watching.
Yeah. What did he say? He said beautiful brutality. I was like, ooh, that's a weird quote. To be fair.
Yeah.
I was pleasantly surprised to see Tsitsipas string some wins together. I know he's been kind of a one or two and done the last few tournaments, and he made a deep run. He made the semis, but again, I think there's obviously levels to the game. So I think Medvedev is currently on a different level than Tsitsipas right now. Medvedev is pretty in form versus Tsitsipas that isn't. But I did think that it was interesting in that match. I saw that uh, Tsitsipas started the match to serve, and he served and volleyed 5
Mhm.
straight points to start the match. And I loved that. I loved the idea of just like giving this guy a different look and just like trying stuff out. That was always the most frustrating thing watching folks like Andy Murray or Gail Monfils just, or even like some, I don't know, Gilles Simon, just these like grinder types of players. Just try something different. Try taking someone by surprise. You guys are all so talented. You guys hit millions of tennis balls every year. I'm pretty sure you can take some, win some easy points by trying something like serve and volleying. I think that's what I'll talk about more in my match of the week, but I like that out of Ben Shelton as well. I saw him chip and charge a little bit on the Sinner serve, which was super sick.
Yeah. One cool thing about Sinner is I feel like I've talked about in the past, it was kind of seemed like there was almost a separation from the top three guys, Medvedev, Alcaraz, Djokovic, where it was like you don't really expect them to lose to anybody other than one of the other two. And it seems like Sinner's almost kind of bridging that gap up from like the number 4 spot up so that he's in the conversation with those guys is like, okay, we could see this guy winning any of these tournaments as well.
Yeah, I mean, Sinner's a huge contender right now. He like I remember when we used to watch him when he was younger. I was just like, this guy is just like so relentless with like how uh, like just aggressively like how much pressure he puts, how hard he hits, but he just misses so much.
Yeah, I was
Um,
gonna say, don't you think that's kind of his Achilles heel too?
yeah,
Because he did make
totally.
a lot of errors today.
Yeah, he did, and like yeah, I mean, it was really back and forth. Like, I mean, in the first set tiebreak, he like completely lost. He missed like he made errors in like 4 of the first 5 points, just like unforced errors, I think. Then, cuts it all back together, smacks a bunch of winners, and like, yeah, he's definitely streaky, but
A man after my own heart. I love that.
Parth loves that. I mean, he's making it a lot more, and like he's certainly put in a lot of effort to improve his game. You can tell.
Yeah. Do you guys think like what are your predictions for the Paris Masters? Do you think Sinner could make a massive run there? Maybe pull it out there as well?
It's
Djokovic is
possible. I
playing
mean,
so
indoor hard courts. I guess Joker's just playing. Indoor hard courts are gonna probably help someone like Sinner. I think I wonder how his body feels. I mean, he's made deep runs in a bunch of tournaments lately. I guess Shanghai was the only one where he didn't go too deep, but yeah, I wonder if fatigue plays a role,
Yeah.
especially just hitting every ball as hard as Sinner does. It has to wear on you eventually.
Yeah, especially if he plays someone like Djokovic, where like Djokovic has had
Yeah,
what 5 weeks off. I don't know how long it's been since he played a
yeah,
match. So he's going to be coming into the match fresh versus Sinner, who's played 15 matches in the last 3 weeks.
yeah, and then a 3 hour one today. Yeah,
they are in the same half, so they face each other in the semis.
I remember I was looking at the draw earlier, and first off, I think my biggest take is that Dimitrov's going to get his revenge against Medvedev in the second round, or yeah, second round. Is it second round? I don't know. They're playing each other early, and I think Dimitrov's going to pull it out. He's been playing so well. Medvedev looks. I mean, Medvedev's been playing pretty well too, but he's I don't know had a long week
Yeah.
and just won a tight. It was a tight three setter, I think, against Dimitrov this past week, and I think Dimitrov is going to be out for blood.
That'd be a cool match to see. Be looking forward to it.
Yeah, yeah, I'll be watching for sure.
Tiafo Bublik is also going to be a good match.
Yeah, talk about a bet of the week for me.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It
Are
it
you
is
taking Bublik?
I am taking Bublik, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But I do think it's funny though when you look at a tournament like Paris where you're looking at the first round and you're like, oh, there are matches where Bublik versus Tiafoe where you're like, this is just a rough matchup for these guys. But then you look at another matchup, and I think there
Yeah.
was one like I want to say Mueller versus Safulin. Like they're good players, but the level you're like these guys got kind of lucky because one of them's getting
yeah.
through this first round, whereas if
I
they'd
think
played,
Safiulin's been playing well. I think he's going to be kind of a tough first round for Alcaraz. I think he's going to win, and I think he's going to be a tough first round for Alcaraz.
yeah,
Isn't there a Hurkacz Korda first round.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
That's gonna be
that's
exciting.
my bet of the week.
Damn, that's tough because
Nice.
Hurkacz is 9 right now in the race to turn.
Yeah, I think
So
so. I
tough
think he's number
start.
9. I think he passed Fritz recently, or
Yeah,
like
Fritz
this
is
this
Fritz
this
is out,
week.
I think.
Speaking on that, I mean, race to turn. Who do you think is going to be those last couple guys? Because we got 5 guys in now. There's only 3 spots left.
I don't know. I'm not an expert on how all the points work out. It seems like it's coming down to the wire. Runa will do it. I think he's gonna have a pretty solid tournament. His draw is like doable. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know who else. I would love to see Hurkacz
Yeah, he could sneak in.
pull it
He's.
out.
I think it's really going to be a situation where whoever does better of those 2 guys in Paris ends up taking that last spot.
Yeah, they're within like 200 points of each other, something like that.
It's sick when the last tournament decides who makes it in. I love the drama. I remember in
100%.
like whatever it was, like 2008 or 9 maybe, Sangha was playing the finals of Paris against Nalbandian, and whoever won that match was in, and whoever lost was out. And it was crazy. And Sangha was playing in Paris, so home country,
Yeah,
and he just pulled it out, made the Shanghai World Tour Finals.
Now,
crazy.
Bandian was still around in 2009. That's crazy.
Yeah. Speaking on that last tournament though, like, do you think Djokovic or Alcaraz is going to end up being that year-end number 1? Obviously, it's an uphill battle for Alcaraz right now, but do you think he can pull it out?
I I think Djokovic has got it. I would never bet against Djokovic. He's rested. He's Djokovic,
Yeah.
and like I mean, it's been a long season for Alcaraz. Like I bet he's tired and like hurting.
Yeah.
He almost didn't play. I feel like it's kind of a surprise that he's ready to go for Paris and Turin. I just saw his like post on Instagram about how the message was basically saying, "Surprise, I'm back."
Yeah.
Uh, and so I guess he is playing, but we'll see. I think it does seem like he's hit a bit of a fatigue wall this year, which I don't blame him because my God, he's
Yeah.
played a lot of intense, mentally and physically taxing matches this year. So
Yeah. Long season. I think the thing about it too for Alcaraz is like I think there was almost a level of he came back because he was injured at the beginning of the year and he was like, I have to make up for lost time. And he almost went like pushed it too far because he was like, I have to make up for it. But then he went almost harder than he would have if he had started the year at a normal pace.
I feel like that happens a lot too. Like with the younger players, they tend to like sort of overexpose themselves, like kind of play themselves into the ground, and then like as they get older, they like learn how to pare that back. I feel like that's a pretty common theme.
I mean, you look at Djokovic
Hmm.
now and he plays in like 8 tournaments in a year, but they're all the biggest ones and he wins all of them.
It's unbelievable.
yeah, some of his tournament misses are not on purpose. I feel like. Well, I guess they are. I guess if you're not getting vaccinated on purpose, that'll that sets your schedule for you. But I
Yeah.
do think what Quinn is saying is super true. I think that's at least in my opinion, I think that's why Dominic Thiem is kind of washed right now. He played so many tournaments for like a stretch of 4 or 5 years in the beginning of his career. He was playing every week for so long, and now he has no wrists. So I can't help but think that may have contributed to the downfall. I know he's kind of slowly making his way back up, but I mean it remains to be seen if he's going to return to the elite level he was at.
Yeah.
We'll see. I think he's still playing a ton of tournaments though, which is the irony of it all because he needs all the matches he can get and all the points he can get, but that's kind of what got him into this pickle in the first place. So we'll see.
Yeah.
He's playing Wawrinka though, so I'll be watching that match while you guys
Oh
watch
yeah.
all the other ones.
Yeah.
I'll stick to my one-handed backhand brothers, and
Exactly.
then I'll just stop watching the tournament.
Alrighty. One last question before we hop into segments. I don't know when you guys maybe be able to come back on. So I just want to hear one like bold take you guys have going into next season, 2024. Like, what's your big thought you think is going to happen?
Maybe Ben Shelton Grand Slam final could be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think this is more of a want rather than a prediction, but it would be very cool to see Rafa and Alcaraz play doubles at the Olympics. I think that would be a great send off. I know Rafa has expressed interest in that. I'm not sure if Alcaraz has responded to that interest, but
Oh, I mean,
uh,
I think if
I
I
don't
think
think
if
you
I think if Rafa has interest in it, then Alcaraz will do.
yeah.
He grew up at the Nadal Academy and he just snubs him.
Rafa asks Alcaraz to play with him in his last tournament ever before they have to amputate his knees because he can't walk anymore, whatever
Yeah.
injury he'll have then.
Yeah, and Alcaraz is like, nope,
Yeah,
no, I'm
yeah.
good. I'm good. I gotta do some load
No, I'm
management.
actually yeah. I actually am gonna play with Pablo Carreno Busta instead. Sorry, guy.
Ooh. Yeah.
How about Davidovich Fokina?
Shakira. Yeah, that's gotta be it. I
Yeah.
think my hot take is that Nadal, like for the 18th time in his career, will find out that he just has 5 more years in him, and he just wins 3 of the Grand Slams this year, and he looks like he's 18 again. Somehow his hair is all grown back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I feel like there were so many times growing up where I was like, wow, I think he's done. That was like a really it seems like this is it. And it never is. He's
Yeah.
just like had such a long career despite all of the injuries.
Yeah. Okay, are you guys ready to hop into segments?
Yeah,
Let's do
let's
it.
do it.
Sounds good. All right, Eric. What's new this week? What'd you see?
Yeah, so I saw an article in Tennis 365. Interesting headline. Boris Becker employs unorthodox move to help Rune. And when I first saw this, I thought that it was alluding to the fact that Boris Becker was making Rune play chess because I had previously read an article where he would do that with Djokovic. But it turns out it was just having Rune not wear a hat or necklace during his matches, which I thought was pretty interesting. Apparently, obviously less distraction there, seems to be working. My take is when you're in kind of a slump as Rune was in, you got to try anything you can to just get out of it, and this seems to be a good first start. Kind of brings me into what I was kind of talking about earlier. I love tennis fashion, tennis style, and I always just kind of associated Rune with his backwards hat with his little hair coming out in front, and it's so strange to see him without his hat. It almost doesn't look like him, but thought that was pretty funny. I think the backwards hat look is sweet if you can pull it off because not everyone can. And just a few players that come to mind, Tommy Paul, swaggiest player on tour, Struff, Kyrgios always, and then JJ Wolf sometimes with his long mullet coming out the back. Great look.
What about wearing the visor like Roddick did?
Right. Yeah, that's so early 2000s.
That's a look that very few people can pull off.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. The Reebok visor.
Exactly.
What a
Brad
fun
Gilbert
time.
told him he wouldn't coach him unless he stopped wearing the visor. So he
Oh,
switched
that's
the hat.
funny. He probably had like
That's
frosted tips
it's
too.
yeah. That's so Brad Gilbert of Brad Gilbert
Yeah.
to do to
Yeah.
not coach somebody because they're wearing a visor.
Yeah, when you do like sideways visor too, it'd be like this.
Yeah,
Yeah, for like
that's
the
already
interviews and
good.
stuff. Yeah.
What about you,
I
Aiden?
saw that Rune. They asked him about that hat. Rune
Yeah,
said that he
yeah,
just didn't
yeah.
want to. He doesn't want to lose his hair, so he's not wearing the
That's
hat right
fair.
now.
Yeah.
That's fair.
My what's new is it was an article talking about how Medvedev kind of supporting Djokovic in this comment Djokovic made about the ball changes from tournament to tournament. Because obviously, like each tournament plays with like a different ball with slightly different weight, different feel on the racket. And so Medvedev and Djokovic were saying this kind of contributes to a lot of like shoulder and wrist and elbow injuries that people have on tour. And they were proponents of the idea for like one ball for all tournaments. I don't think that would really work just because of all the different ball brands there are, all the sponsors. But uh, Parth and Quinn, do you guys have any like take like obviously you guys probably played with more different balls. Like, can you really feel how drastic of a difference there is when it's a different ball, like a different college or something like that?
Definitely. I mean, so oftentimes it was like the conference usually has their own like ball. Like our conference used pro pens for most of our college career, then switched to Wilson US Opens. You could totally feel the difference. Like different balls like completely changed the game. And like some balls, like I mean, I had a bad shoulder. Like if I was playing with certain balls consistently, it was a lot harder on my shoulder. Yeah, sometimes like I mean the heavier balls were pretty hard on my shoulder. Sometimes when the ball was too light, I kind of found it being hard. But like yeah, it was definitely something that I noticed. But I think that that's part of the game. I mean like you have completely different courts, different surfaces. Like if it's causing more injuries, and I guess there is some data on that, it having caused like they were been going to heavier balls, right? And it's been like there have been more injuries, if I'm remembering right.
I think it's just like the mix up, like having to deal with like, oh, you have a heavier ball, but then all of a sudden you go to a lighter ball, kind of like you were talking about. Like sometimes the lighter ball causes more injuries. So I think just like having that inconsistency with how they were hitting the ball.
Yeah, that makes sense. If it's causing injuries, then that's definitely something to evaluate. I don't know what your take is, Parth.
I did see that Wawrinka also posted a little montage of pictures about how in 4 different weeks there's 4 different types of balls, and he was kind of calling out the ATP, being like, "Can you like care more about player health, please? Is there such discrepancy in the balls every week?" Which I get. I mean, I've been kind of hearing about it more and more. Medvedev has lots of takes on it because he just kind of likes to. I've never heard of him uh, talking about conditions or balls positively. So I hear it from him all the time. Him kind of just talking about court speeds and ball heaviness and things like that. But I think a lot of the speculation I've seen online, and I could reasonably believe it, that they are trying to make these balls heavier and the courts slower and more homogeneous speed wise because they want to prolong points and make it more of a spectator sport. And these pros are bashing these ground strokes all the time, and that will probably shorten points to a degree that the ATP probably doesn't want. And so I guess they're trying out heavier balls and slower courts. So obviously we don't want that to come at the cost of player health. So hopefully they can find some middle ground. I'm sure once more players start speaking up about it, that will probably change things.
Yeah, 100%. So,
Yeah.
Parth, I know you brought a what's new this week. What did you see this week?
I saw an interesting Instagram graphic about Sinner's serve motion change starting in July of this year, and this huge breakdown of how his serve stats improved just across the board. Just like first serve percentage in, first serve percentage points won, uh, double fault percent decrease, free points, aces, all the good stuff that you want your serve to do. It seems like he improved on all of them after a subtle but pretty meaningful change to the serve motion. It I think he went from serving with more of a form stance when he was tossing the ball up to uh, tossing the ball up and then bringing his right foot up to close to the baseline alongside his left to kind of
Mm,
form a more like pin style of serve motion. And
yeah,
it seems to have helped him a lot. I think what you're saying of him kind of being that bridge now between the top three guys and everyone else. I think him doing that and getting a lot of free points is helping him a lot, because if you get free points and you're Sinner, that obviously makes you less prone to hitting errors and getting tired and things like that. So um, it seems to be paying dividends. I mean, he got a win over Alcaraz, which is pretty cool. Got a
yeah.
title today, so I thought that was interesting. And then the only other thing I that was of note for me was reading about the WTA finals in Cancun and how like the stadium court is not finished and they're not letting the players practice on it. there's only another practice court that players can practice on. There's only one stringer at the facility, which is just that's tough to hear. You don't want that to be the
Yeah.
case.
You'd think they'd be prepared like a little bit before.
Exactly. Exactly. It's just like it's brutal to like see the discrepancy. I mean, the like World Tour finals in London and Shanghai and Turin now are like the most extravagant times of the year in tennis. Like it's ATP's on the world stage for this week. Like top players in the world are gonna all play against each other for a week. Like we got to make sure things are up to par. Seems to not be the case for the WTA so far, which is tough. I hope that changes. I mean, at least as far as women's sports goes, like women's tennis players are like the marquee women's athletes a lot of the time. Like they're amongst the highest paid, and like it's one of the only sports where like the men play alongside the women at these facilities and like at the same time and stuff. So hope they can figure that out.
100%. Yeah, no, that's definitely a couple big things to note. The center serve thing, I didn't know that would make that big of an impact, but it's cool to see that it has. Also, the Brooksby doping suspension.
Yeah, I mean, that was something that Parth and I have been talking about lately. That's tough. I mean, it's like 18 months, I think. It's like pretty tough early in the career. And I think you guys talked about it a while back when it was first coming up on the podcast. I think I remember that a
Yeah,
little while ago. And
yeah.
it's tough. Like I don't know what it's like. I remember my coach growing up, he like had been on the tour and he said that it was pretty intense with the drug testing and like they would just like show up at like random times as a surprise and you just like had to be ready and do it. So like I don't know. It's possible. I don't think yeah, I'm not sure what the situation is with like missing drug tests, whether it really was an accident.
Yeah.
But that sucks.
100%. I mean, I saw based on what I read about it was that like two of them he was like these were my fault. I take the blame for those. But then like one of them it was like he was there for the entire time they said they were going to be there and then he left or something and they called and were like we're coming to do this test and they said that he wasn't checked into his room or something like that and there was all this confusion about it and if you were going to admit that the other two were your fault, like, and he has this like reasonable sounding story about this third one, it seems kind of crazy they would suspend him for so long. But I guess that's just how it goes.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
Clearly not HGH.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just gonna come back though, like Jari after his suspension,
Oh
just
yeah.
break back into the top 20 out of
Yeah.
nowhere.
Could be.
Yeah.
I remember seeing him play because he's from NorCal, like us, and I remember seeing him play when he was like 11. I was in the 16s or 18s, I can't remember. I think it was the 18s actually, and he was playing in the 18s.
Oh
Uh,
my God.
he was the 16s, but I thought it was the 18s. And number one in NorCal, Victor Pham, was playing against him, and it was so electric. I mean, Victor beat him 1-1. But like, I was watching this match, and I'm like, this guy is smaller than the tennis racket, and this guy he's playing is so good. Like, I played him before. He just hits the crap out of the ball. And this little kid is just getting everything back. Has like the ugliest strokes, like
Yeah.
can barely hold the racket, but like just everything comes back. They're having like 30, 40 ball rallies. And it was just so fun. I forgot about all of my like tennis stuff. I just sat there and just was mesmerized by the match. But yeah, I don't know. It was cool, watching him come onto the scene. Would be cool to see him back.
Yeah. Yeah, they're like asking, they're like, has this person checked in yet? You're like just sitting watching this match.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't need to play anymore.
Exactly. All righty, you ready to hop into bet of the week?
Yeah, let's do it. So I am taking Herkoch plus 105 over Korda. I'm a little surprised that Herkoch has positive odds here. I don't
Insane.
really understand it. So I jumped all over it. Obviously, he's up 2-1 head to head against Korda. He's been in two finals the last 2 weeks. I don't really understand it, but hey, I'm not complaining. I feel like the odds are going to change once we get closer to the match Tuesday morning. So another thing I did want to say too, I had Medvedev winning today, so I lost that bet, but I did hit a pretty sweet prop, over 10.5 games in the first set. I don't know why, but I went for it because I looked at each of their previous matches, and the last three were 12 games. So I figured, I don't know, I'm going to try it. Why not? Put a little money in, and of course that one hit. So kind of made up for the Medvedev loss.
Nice. I'm going with Bublik plus 115 over Tiafo, like we kind of talked about. Obviously, I mean, Bublik just won that tournament in Antwerp, but last time I took him, it didn't pay off because he lost to Rude in the first round. But it was a good match overall. I think he's been playing pretty well, and I think Tiafoe's been a little mediocre since the U.S. Open. He lost to Sonigo and Karatsev, who are good players, but not at the top level, the same level as I think Bublik is. And his other matches he's played, he beat Monfils, and he had a walkover against Dan Evans when he was down 1-4. So I'm like, that's just a little bit of a stroke of luck for him. But I think Bublik can get it done.
Yeah, looks like we're going anti-American this week.
The opposite. Some of our
Short
other
the
weeks.
American, yeah. All right, cool. How about match of the week?
My match of the week was Stricker beating Rude 6-4, 3-6, 7-6. It was a close match, but I kind of wanted to bring it up because we have some good tennis players on this week, and I wanted to talk about a strategy aspect because based on what I was seeing in the match, like it seemed like Rude was finding a lot of success just as long as he just kept the ball deep and kind of pushed Stricker back off the baseline. Because when Stricker was able to be close up on the baseline, he was able to inject a ton of pace, especially on his backhand, which was really impressive. He would step into that backhand and just smack winners with it. So I wanted to know, like, based on like your guys' perspective, how difficult is it to employ even a simple strategy like just put the ball deep when you're at someone's level like a Rude? Because obviously he's an excellent player. It seems like it wouldn't be that tough of a strategy, but sometimes I guess you're not able to pull it off.
Yeah, I think hitting the ball deep is hard.
Yeah.
When you're playing someone at your level, like keeping the ball deep is like that's almost always the strategy. Unless you're like a Monfils and you like to just kind of like toss one short in the middle, let them be on offense so that you can like show off that you're an insane athlete and crazy defender and shot maker. But like most people, the goal is to just hit as deep as you can. Like it's really overwhelming when people can consistently hit deep, like no matter what the strategy aside from that is.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that was Rude's strategy, but I am surprised that he was having a tough time employing it because I feel like he's notorious for just having a margin of error over the net and putting air under the ball with a lot of spin, which theoretically should give you what you need to get the ball deep in the court. But maybe, yeah, just wasn't feeling it that day. I know Stricker has a big game. He has pretty flat strokes, so maybe Rude was having a hard time picking the ball up in the fast indoor hard court and getting it deep enough. I think Rude needs to be more aggressive, if anything. I think he's a big boy. He should be able to slap some forehands every now and again. He had, in my opinion, I think he's a little too conservative at times, but it's served him reasonably well despite his ups and downs throughout the last few
Yeah.
years. But yeah.
One thing I've actually seen that was talking about Rude was like, and it's kind of true, is that he plays so well on clay, and then you expect that from him on all the other surfaces. And it's like you get flashes of it, but when he's on clay, it's just another level, and you just don't see it when he's on hard court.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully, he can get back to that level of playing in the U.S. Open final at some point.
It's crazy. He still made a slam final, and he might not
Yeah.
make the World Tour finals.
Oh,
Still
yeah, yeah. Insane.
not inconceivable.
Yeah, dude, talk about a fall from grace. But yeah, my match of the week was Shevchenko upsetting Fritz, 6-7, 7-6, 7-6. I haven't seen a 3-set tiebreaker match in a while, so this one stuck out to me. And unfortunately, Fritz blew another match here. He had a few match points that he just couldn't capitalize on. And this is kind of what we brought up earlier in the year, Aidan, break match points. So Shevchenko was serving, and I don't know if it's different having a break match point versus match points, if they should be counted differently. I don't know.
Yeah.
But overall, this, super long drawn out points. Shevchenko just basically defended and let Fritz make the errors. I thought Fritz could have been more aggressive. And one thing that really stuck out to me in the match was in the third set tiebreaker, Fritz got his ankles absolutely broken with Shevchenko coming in, acting as if he was going to like put away a winner and then just hit a drop shot. And Fritz was super off balance and just completely fell. And that was
Ooh.
something I wanted to bring up because you guys, having played college tennis, is it a thing to have your ankles broken like that? Do you guys call it that? Is it something? Is there a name for it? Because it's kind of like getting crossed up in basketball. It's like your opponent kind of outsmarted you in a way to the point where you fell on the floor.
I spent a lot of time on the ground in tennis matches.
Just what, not being
Luckily,
able to transfer the weight, getting faked out.
luckily I had strong ankles. Yeah, definitely a thing in tennis. Getting your ankles broken for sure.
I think it kind of, based on what we've heard, it kind of reflects the basketball aspect. What we've heard about your game, Quinn, is it's like when the harder you're defending in basketball, it's like the more likely you are to get your ankles broken because you're going so aggressively into every turn and cut. So it's a similar thing in tennis where it's like if you're going all out to get every single ball, you're more likely to get hit with a mix up and end up on the ground.
Yeah,
All
maybe
right,
that's true.
Quinn, I got a question for you though. So when you did spend all that time on the ground, did you take after Djokovic and just stay on the ground extra long, be all dramatic, and just kind of stay there for a bit?
I did look up to him.
He's so funny when he hits the deck, Djokovic. It's like a whole ordeal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unbelievable what he does. I don't think I was ever like that. I was usually trying to get back up because I was still on defense and
Oh.
I had hit a lob about 600 feet in the air. But yeah, no, he's unbelievable. Like when he just like has these times where he just like can't stand up straight. It's so weird. Like he does that thing where he like falls over as he like hits a ground stroke and like like he makes like the I don't know, big theater of it. It's crazy.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
frustrating.
Alrighty, Parth, what about you? What'd you have for match of the week?
It's obviously I haven't talked about him enough today. Either of these guys actually. I had Sinner over Shelton 7-6, 7-5. I think that's just a high octane matchup because of their play styles. They're both so hyper aggressive with absolutely no plan B. So either of them are just going to go down swinging. And they both kind of brought it that day. They were both playing pretty well. There were only a few points here and there that decided that first set, and then in the second set it was the same deal. I also liked. I'm always pretty intrigued by when players play each other in a short time span, like when there's a rematch of a match that happened a week ago. So Shelton just beat Sinner 7-6 in the third in Shanghai, and I was just curious to see like how, because there's so much, like there's a mental game aspect I imagine of like a rematch just with like any sport. Beating someone twice is kind of hard. So I was intrigued to see if Shelton was gonna be able to pull it out again, because I guess the first time the match in Shanghai was, I guess, considered an upset. Um, and yeah, they both were playing pretty well. I liked seeing Shelton's variety, um, and seeing him chip and charge and come to net. He's a pretty tall guy, so his wingspan is suitable for that sort of play style. And then the other thing I noticed was that there's kind of a role reversal. Usually in a Ben Shelton match, points are short because Ben Shelton decides they're going to be short, whether he's hitting an unreturnable serve or if he's going to hit a forehand 6 feet long. But I noticed that Sinner got out of jail a few times with big serves in clutch moments, and I thought that was pretty cool. I think that's just going to serve him so well. It's just like a huge morale boost to get free points on your serve, and obviously there's like a physical benefit as well, not having to grind and play a long point. So and Sinner is not known. He's not a notorious defensive playmaker, but he is definitely, I think, a little better on defense than Shelton, and that seems to me what kind of played a big role in the end, because not only was he getting 3 points on his serve, but he was able to just kind of stab Ben Shelton's serves back in play as well. So Ben Shelton wasn't able to do that all the time on Sinner's serve. So it was a pretty cool match. I think these young guns, there's a lot of good rivalries. It's not just like Federer and Rafa being like the one marquee matchup of any given week at a tennis tournament anymore. It's like these earlier rounds have pretty crazy matchups. I mean, having these first round Paris matches are also pretty exciting as well. So that's me.
Yeah, no, I mean, speaking on what you said about it being hard to beat someone twice in a row, I think we've seen that a lot recently, because like we saw Zverev play Safulin in the Chengdu final, and then Zverev won, and then a week later, Safulin beat him, and then we also had Rune lost to Kekmanovic, and then comes back and beats him the next week, and then obviously like this one, Shelton Sinner splitting the matchup. I think that's something we're seeing a lot more of recently, is like these back-to-back playing of the same two guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Hurkacz just beat Korda. Hurkacz just beat Korda the other week too. So now you're making me second guess my bet of the week if he can do it twice in such a short time span too, because you got to go back and make adjustments too. So
he's got it.
All right, let's go.
I think Hurkacz is going to win that.
What
match.
A funny guy.
I think
he's so quirky.
Yeah, I love him.
I know.
He's great.
I know.
His game is so unglamorous, but he's obviously super good. He has a Masters 1000 now, so shout out.
Yeah.
It's tough to beat someone twice in a row unless you're Novak versus Gael Monfils. Then you're just unbeatable.
Yeah. Or what was it? Federer versus Ferrer.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, Quinn, Parth, thanks for coming on. I really enjoyed this discussion, super insightful. And if the people want to find you, where can they follow you on social media?
I can be found at Parth_Vader on Instagram. If anyone wants to chat about tennis with me, let me know. I'm always open. If anyone wants the most biased Rafa content they've ever seen ever, I'm your guy.
Let's go. I know we have a lot of Rafa fans. All right. How about you, Quinn?
I'm off the grid, so don't reach out.
Nice.
But if you do want to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of me through Parth at Parth_Vader on Instagram.
All right, guys. Thanks. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Love being on the pod.
Thanks so much.
All right, and that's the show. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube at Painting Lines Podcast. Feel free to shoot us a DM or email us any questions or thoughts at paintinglinespodcast@gmail.com.